Alright, hello YouTube. This is me, back over here again, and we're going to be making a review video for the Metroid Samus Figma that has come out, I believe it was around sometime last year for the game Metroid Other M. And I'll probably make a video on the game itself later, but this is specifically for the figure for it. Now, I actually got this figure first out of all my other figures, and I kind of wanted to review this one first because it was the first one I got, and particularly why I think people watch these kind of videos is to see if they want to get these figures for themselves. So that's why I'm making this video here, to show you everything about this awesome Metroid figure. So first, before we get into that, I'm going to start with like the box, accessories, and then we'll get into the awesome Samus over there. And that was my phone, which I'm about to turn off. Stop bothering me, people. Alright, so we got the box right here. This is the Figma box, typical is what you're going to get from regular Figma stuff. This is the front. You can see through it. There is a punch-out stand. If you can see it through there, it says Metroid Other M on it. I've never really gotten the stands to work correctly, so I just kind of left it in there because it was neat to keep the box for. Wow. There's really cool art on the side and on the back. They show a bunch of different types of poses and stuff you can do with it. For some reason my camera can't quite see it all right side up, but either way, we're going to see the figure in a bit anyway. Another side of the box. They just completely cover the thing in art. Looks awesome. Too bad I can't read any of it, but whatever. There's the box. We're on here for the box anyway. Some of the accessories that this came with are a little unusual. Like this, they came with a morph ball, which is pretty cool. Except, I mean, you don't really ever use it. The only thing that it's really good for is if you feel like swapping Samus out for the actual morph ball, because it can go on the stand like so. Which, I mean, sure, it's kind of funny. It like throws off the rest of the figures you have set up, or it's just an interesting way to display it. But oh well, I thought it was kind of cool to include something like that. But now that I'm holding it, here's the next piece right here. This is the stand itself. All the Figma stands are just fantastic. It will just hold like any pose you want it to, even if you're like holding it awkwardly like straight up, and if I was doing something like that, it would probably hold her just fine. I'm not gonna try it, but I think these are like by far the best stands I've ever come across for displaying figures at all. You can tell they all say Figma at the bottom. You can make sure that they're real by like checking if there's like any bubbles or anything inside of here. I do have a fake Figma of something else, and I'll show a video later so you can spot fake Figmas versus real ones. And I'm positive this is a real Samus. I got it in the pre-release before it even came out, which is actually the only way to get Figmas from the company, because after they make them for their pre-release, that's basically it, and you have to get one from somebody else who actually bought a ton of them. Alright, so next we have the hands Samus comes with, which is pretty cool. She comes with a bunch of them. She's actually using one of them right now. I'm not really going to pop it off, but you can see it right here. It's just a fist. Typical fist. There's another fist right here, but this one is a little different than the one I have on her, because if you can see it, it's actually got a little hole in there if she's going to hold something, but she doesn't come with anything to hold. So I guess this if you feel like being creative and mixing her with swords and stuff you have for other figures, go right ahead. But each of the hands also have little joints right here and can pivot a lot. The thing is, once you get it completely situated in Samus's arm, it's not gonna move very much. I mean, I could wiggle it out more and then push it, and it'll probably go like that to that, but once it's in there completely, it's not going anywhere. So it doesn't really matter, but it's still there. It's a nice touch that they add that on there. The next two hands are pretty straightforward. You can see we have an open hand like this, probably for like dynamic fighting, shooting poses and stuff like that. More calm, relaxed, open hand. And then this one, which I love because the company themselves don't seem to understand what it's for. Even on their actual shots they did for displaying this figure, if you can see right here in the bottom, they always show Samus doing the thumbs up, which, if you played the game, Samus always does thumbs down, and that's why they made the thumb piece, so you could do the thumbs down pose, but they never show it like that. It's like the people who built the figure got it, and then the people who took the pictures didn't, and I don't know, but because of that, I always feel weird actually using the thumb correctly, because I'm like, wow, now I just feel like that one hipster guy who doesn't seem to understand why they made the figure, but either way, it's there. You still have it, so it's a total of 5 hands. I was talking forever about just hands. This next one's kind of cool, but I do have a weird issue with it. This is Samus's gun opened. You can see right there. It opens whenever you shoot a missile. So it just pops right off there. You can see it's kind of an odd shape so that it'll hold its place. Yep, just like that. Just goes right in and stays. It's really nice. Now, only issue I have with this thing is it's only open when you're shooting missiles. And why give it to me if you don't give me any missiles? Which is what the, or at least it's an idea of what the next accessory is. It's 2 different types of regular beam shots, which both would come from this type of extension of the gun. Which, okay, sure, but why don't I have a missile? It's kind of sad when people online will actually build those missiles to attach into this gun, just like this, and they'll make like ice missiles, different types of beams and stuff that'll go with this. In my opinion, it's kind of a failure on Figma's part if they couldn't create the necessary accessories to go with this thing that people would have really wanted. But it's just accessory-wise. I don't really mind. I mean, I've never really needed like a missile or anything, but when you have it posed with the this piece in particular, you're like, really wish I had a missile, you know. But oh well. One other accessory, now that I'm wiggling her head around, is making me think, I kind of wish that it also came with an interchangeable head, so that you can remove the helmet, but they didn't. Doesn't really matter. I'm not going to complain about that. I know there was a very, very old Samus figure. Man, it cost like a couple $100 last I saw. Really actually looks like crap, but people got it just because this didn't exist at the time, and even it had an interchangeable head, so I was like, wow, that did, and this doesn't? Well, before I completely skip over it, there's one more thing you get. You do get the Figma bag. It's another way to tell if you have a real Figma or not. Usually fake ones do not come with this bag, and this little baggie just helps you carry all the nonsense that should have included a missile. What? Okay, anyway, so now we're moving on to Samus, the actual figure, and we're going to move just from the head down, and I'll show you everything that'll move on Samus, which, just on posability-wise, this is probably the easiest to pose figure I have. She clearly, I guess it's just being made by Figma. They just have the best knowledge of how these joints are supposed to work for figures. So, this first one here is on the neck. It doesn't really move that much. That's about the extent of it. Just left and right. Not really up and down at all. So if you're trying to get her to like look up and shoot something, it'll work. Like in the game, you can see her actually do it in the game, look up and down, but you can't really do it here considering how her shoulder is, or not her shoulder, but her back to chest area is just completely massive. So that doesn't really move very much. Now, the shoulders are actually on different joints than the top of the arm. You can't really see it, but see, I can actually move the shoulder piece so that if I was, say, going to move my arm way out here, the shoulder wouldn't look awkward and hang out like that, so I would actually move the arm under the shoulder, or the shoulder on top of the arm, but you probably wouldn't move the shoulder on top of the arm. Just to keep it in place, you'd move the arm underneath the shoulder, which there you can see that joint in there is another Figma joint. the arm can rotate about in there. It's about as far as it can go in either direction. Now, this is like the easiest to see Figma joint. These things are just fantastic. You can just move just about anywhere, and this thing is just going to hold it. That's about as much as it rotates, so about as much as you would expect her to be able to turn it, and then about as much as you'd expect an arm to be able to naturally move. We already looked at how hands work. Same deal on this other arm over here, except this one, because it has the gun attached to it, doesn't move quite as much. That's about as high up as you can get it, and it's about as far back as you can go. Now, there's a hidden joint in here in the waist. It doesn't really tilt back and forward very much. You can see that's about as extent as it'll go, but she can rotate all the way around if you want her to. Probably wouldn't, but you know, you get the idea. It just can't do it. And the only issue I've got with this is actually with the hips. I don't know if this is just mine, but sometimes when I'll rotate these hips, which I could take this all the way around if I wanted to, but I don't, because for some reason my hips tend to pop out on here, and I don't know why. I feel like they might be in kind of wrong. You can see it just kind of looks funny. Like maybe it's in upside down or something like that, but I don't really know. But anyway, she could really do just about anything with her legs, though. You could move pretty darn far with these things. Next, this is the same joint that we saw in the arm and the shoulder, except the leg can actually move very far, except for that, you know, obvious knee pad getting in the way. The leg to the foot has a really awesome ankle joint, same joint as the arm and the leg, and once again, that's going to prevent it from moving any farther. And there's actually a little itty bitty joint in here for the toe, so you can do like mid-run, standing, gun poses, stuff like that. So you can pose her to do a whole lot, even though just from what this comes with, it doesn't look like it comes with a whole lot of stuff. But this is a really, really awesome figure because you really make it do whatever you want. Now, like I said, like my only complaints with this figure is there's just something kind of off with my hip joints. I think that's just mine, how it's just put together. And I just kind of wish it came with a missile, if it was going to come with this changing piece at all, or an interchangeable head, but that's just me really being nitpicky. And those things you can actually buy on eBay for people who are just straight up building these things. I have no idea how much they're charging for those, so don't really go to me for that. But anyway, that's pretty much all on Samus. I got her for about, I'm going to say 40 when they come out. Most Figmas are about 40 bucks when they come out, and this one in particular is really ranging, probably just because it was a really high in demand Nintendo game figure, and at one point, like, it was up to like 200 bucks, and then it went down to like 40 again, and now it's like kind of meeting somewhere around like 80 to 40 is what you're going to expect to go for this thing, which I would say is actually a pretty fair price for this so far. I would say 40 was definitely a good buy for that. But yeah, if I really have to go in to rate this figure, I mean, this is probably the best figure I have, which is a little upsetting for me because I've got several more and this was the first one I got. And then again, this is my only real Figma, and Figma is just awesome. Anything you get by them, you can just definitely expect some top quality stuff out of it. So I'm just going to show a couple extra pics of Samus after this, and we'll get to the final ratings and reviews for the Samus Figma. So some final thoughts on Samus before we conclude this video. I'd like to say the posability of this thing is really great. Like I said, Figma is a really good company for getting some top-of-the-line figures for posability, so it really can replicate basically anything you can do in the game. The paint is particularly nice. The metallic shine on most everywhere on the figure looks really good in almost any kind of light, though it looks much better in very well-lit areas.
There are a couple quirks with the figure, like I said before. Some things that you would expect to come with the figure don't, and some odd things do. But that's really not that big of a deal. It's still a really great figure. I would have to rate it about an 8 out of 10 is what I would say. It's a really great figure, but there's still just a couple little things about it that kind of bother me. It's really not that big of a deal. I would still say it's a really good buy for its price. Before we go, though, I'd like to point out one more thing about the figure compared to its photos, its stock photos that are used to advertise the figure. I did a project where I tried to replicate one of those shots with the actual product, and this is about as close as I got. The actual figure that you get appears to be a little different than the one that they have in those shots. Now, granted, it's nothing major, but the figure still seems to look a little different. The paint seems to be a little darker, even when heavily lit. The head seems to be a little bit smaller, and a couple other weird things about like the legs actually lining up correctly, and weird quirks that make the prototype, if this is the prototype, look really nice as compared to the final product, which under close inspection does seem to look a little different. Which I'm not surprised. Prototypes do look different than the final product, but to this extent, it's a little odd. Maybe this is just a little jarring for me. Here's an image of the two shots overlaid on top of each other, and you can kind of see how different some things really are by scale. And I know a little bit of the posing isn't exact, but you can get over that just to see that the figures do seem to be a little different. So I wouldn't look at a figure's stock photos so much if you want to see exactly what it will look like when you get it out of the box. Check other people's review videos. Check my own videos if I happen to have that figure, but because I would definitely say it's a little safer to look at those photos instead of the stock photos because of things like this. And I've had this happen a couple times before where the figure you get is a little bit different than what they actually show you. This isn't really that big of a deal. It's kind of minor, but just letting you know, it does happen, and that's pretty much it. I don't really want to leave this on a bad note because this Samus is really an awesome figure. And to wrap things up, I really love the games. I really love this figure. Like I said, this was my first figure I got, and it's still one of my favorites, primarily because of how awesome it really is. I mean, Samus is great, and the games are fun, and the figure just works really well, and does come with a lot of cool stuff. I do hear later they're going to be coming out with a posable Zero Suit Samus Figma, and I might be getting that one as well, depending on new games coming out for Metroid, which I'm really hoping for. So here's to another video, hopefully soon, and I'll see you guys in the next figure review.